Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this class. I'm very excited to be teaching this class. It's a beautiful day here in California, sunny, coming into, it is, I guess, early summer. What is this? April, May, June. Oh, it's definitely summer. And I just really want to welcome everybody. And today, and I'm Susan Koenig, and I'll be teaching class this morning. And what we're going to do this morning is, people always ask me what I do for my own routine. And I do a lot of different things. One of the things that I like to do is I like to take the basic movements and just play around with them and do variations. So some of what I'm going to do today are going to be variations on some of our basic movements. But we're also going to start in standing in just a moment, and we're going to work with our pelvic floor. And that's a more unusual, but a lot of people ask about pelvic floor, and it's a very important part of our anatomy because it's the bottom of our trunk or our torso. So it's definitely a base of support. And the other thing I'm going to focus on as I do movements is more emphasis on, we always say do movements with awareness, stay in your comfort zone, absolutely do that. When you do movements with awareness and you focus on what you're doing, you get crisper, clearer feedback into the brain about what you're doing. When your feedback is more clear, the motor response, the movement response by the brain is also clearer. So better feedback, better movement response, better feedback. And not only is the movement response improved, but your brain maps and how you understand your body in your brain, in different parts of your brain, is increased, and you increase the accuracy of the brain maps that you have of your body or of your soma. So I will be reminding you of your feedback is giving you clear motor response as we go through the lesson today. Jacqui Neurauter is going to be our model. Jacqui, she's on the screen, and Jacqui's going to just follow along. She doesn't know what I'm going to do. And if she has questions or is confused, she's going to just chime in and say, I didn't understand that, or can you clarify that? Or maybe I misspoke, and she's going to correct me on that. That's great. You have your props, have your pillows. When we're in side position, we're going to be working with and one of the moves, we're going to be working with our arms out in front of us. So you will need a pillow for under your head. And sometimes people like pillows under their knees or to the sides of their thighs when they're doing some kind of rotational movement so that they don't overdo it, especially if they're in pain and have limitation. So we always want to stay in our comfort zone. Isaiah is here with me today. You can monitor chat. I have a very hard time teaching and noticing chat, so I'm not going to do that. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to start in standing. I'm going to get my chair out of the way, and I'm going to go down to my socks. Socks are bare feet, but if you're in shoes, that's fine too. And one of the things I like to do when I come to standing is sometimes I have to wiggle around a little and just kind of feel where I am. So feel free to adjust yourself and then come to comfortable standing. And you want to notice, we're going to notice a few things. One, you want to unlock your knees. If you've pressed your knees backward, that's called hyperextended knees. Do a soft little bend like this and come to a soft straight. You want to notice the weightedness on the bottom of your feet. Let me guide you through this. And we'll do this at the end so that you can compare. So compare your weightedness in your heels of your right foot and your left foot. Are they equally weighted? Are they hardly weighted at all? Is one foot more weighted than the other foot at the heel end of the bottom of your foot? And now go to the balls of your feet. So the right foot, the ball part, which includes your toes of the right foot and the left foot, is there weight? Are they weighted at all? Is there a little bit of weight, a lot of weight? Do you have more weight on one foot than the other foot in the region of the ball of the foot? And compare your heel weight and the ball weight on the right foot and on the left foot. And then go to the outsides of your feet. Do you feel more weight on the outsides of your right and left foot? Do you feel weightedness on the inside arch and all along the medial line of the foot, right foot, left foot? And now go to your right foot and compare, does the weight feel fairly balanced, or where is your weight? Where's the most prominent part of the weight that you notice with your right foot? And go to your left foot, and what's the most prominent part of the weight that you notice with your left foot? Okay, so that's looking at weightedness is very important for posture and also for assessment, because sometimes you can discover so many things about your weightedness in relationship to your balance, in relationship to your upright posture. So we're going to do now another assessment very comfortably. You're just going to raise one arm. I have to come a little forward and just let it be comfortable. Don't try to get any place. You're just seeing where you're at and let it come down. And you're going to raise up your other arm. Like right away, I feel I have a little bit more stiffness in this arm than the other arm, but I can sort of feel it's okay. I feel a little bit of stiffness as I go back and forth, but a little bit more on this side. So you're just noticing. And sometimes you have to do it a couple of times and compare. And then we're going to just rotate or turn our head in each direction. And you're just going to do it comfortably. You're not going to try to force yourself to go a certain distance. And again, on the side that it was a little harder for me to raise my arm, and this may be very different for you, I don't go quite as far in easeful range of motion. But both ranges of motion, I would say, they're okay. They're not maybe great. And then the last thing to notice is just your general sense of being upright. How upright do you feel? Okay, so now we're going to do a pelvic floor movement, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the reassessment again. So you want to stand not with your legs super wide, that's too wide. And you don't want to stand with your legs, whoops, hold on. And you don't want to stand with your legs real close together. You want to be a little farther apart than your normal. So if this is my normal, I want to be a little farther apart, but not real wide, just because in this movement, it gives us a little bit more space. And what we're going to do, there's two parts. I'll turn this way. There's an inhale and an exhale part. Oops. And so, well, I'll start this way and then I'll turn to the side. What you're going to do is you're going to bend your knees, bring your tail behind you. You're going to lean forward, relatively straight. You might have a little bit of an arch. And then you're going to narrow again by just coming up and straightening your legs and your hips to comfortable uprightness. So you're going to inhale and widen. Your pelvic floor is widening. And then as you come back up to straight, your pelvic floor is coming back, narrowing versus where it was with the widening. As you bend your knees and widen, your tail is going backward. You're leaning a little bit forward. You're relatively straight. You might find a little bit of an arch, but you don't necessarily have to look for that. Your tail is behind you. And then as you exhale and come up to uprightness, your tail goes back into place. Your pelvic floor narrows again to your stance. So let's do it a couple more times. But to feel that widening, you can put your hands on your hip joints. You have a crease where at the top of your thigh meets your abdominal region, and right in the middle and deep in there, those are your hip joints. So if you put your fingers on your hip joints, then we're going to do the exercise again. So you're going to inhale and widen. Can you feel your hip joints? Your fingers got wider. And exhale and narrow. And widen and narrow. And you can put your fingers on your sits bones, the bones that you sit on. And you are going to inhale and widen. Feel your sits bones came wider. Exhale, narrow. Inhale, widen, tail is back. Exhale, narrow. Your tail comes back into place. You can put your fingers on your sacroiliac joints where your sacrum and ilium meet, approximately where your dimples would be. Inhale, widen, feel that they come wider apart. And exhale, narrow. Widen, tail back, narrow, tail back in place. And we'll just end with our arms down one or two more times. And inhale, widen, pelvic floor is widening, tail back, you're leaning forward, exhale, and narrow. And then just stand up, get comfortable, and notice your uprightness. I feel more upright. Whatever is true for you is true for you. That when you are moving with your pelvic floor, it helps to create a better foundation with more awareness. You may feel more upright. Go to the weightedness in your feet. Do you have any sense that you are more balanced in your weightedness? For example, heels to ball of foot, inside to outside. Whatever's true is true. And now go ahead and raise an arm. I actually have to come forward because I'm on a very, in a loft on a slanted room, in a slanted roof. And then, and the one that was really much tighter earlier is it's definitely better. This arm is still a little bit freer, but see if it made a difference in your sense of being able to raise your arms. And now rotate your head. See if you have more range of motion. I definitely have more range of motion in both directions. However, I still have more range of motion in the direction I had before, but I have even more. I have more range of motion in the direction that was stiffer, but it's not quite as big as it was. It's not quite as much as on the other side. So I felt improvement in my body, in my soma, in our various tests. So that pelvic floor, that's your homework coming out of this class, is when you stand up to start working with your pelvic floor, it's a very productive thing to do. Okay, we're going to go to the floor. So Jacqui will adjust her camera for the floor and bring it a little. That's going to be good, Jacqui. If you can see your pad in your screen, you can see your body will be good. And we're going to start in supine, lying on our back. Make yourself comfortable. You can have your legs long or your legs bent. And just begin to breathe, trying to breathe naturally. Many of us have learned all kinds of wonderful breathing exercises, and all that is fine. I'm going to suggest nose breathing. Some people like to, when they first focus on breathing, they breathe. I'm going to suggest breathe through your nose, and you can either breathe through your mouth or breathe through your nose on the exhale. But on the inhale, breathe through your nose. It'll warm the air and it's better for your throat. There's all kinds of good things about nose breathing. And see if you can just allow the breathing to come. When you're ready to inhale, just let your body inhale, and your body will tell you when you're ready to exhale. If you're going to bring awareness anywhere, you might want to bring it to the diaphragm, the major muscle of breathing, which is right at the bottom of the rib cage, going all the way around. And when you inhale, the diaphragm, it widens and the dome of the diaphragm comes downward, comes footward, so that air can come into the lungs. And then when you exhale, you redome, the diaphragm redomes, and the air gets expelled. And lots of other things happen too when you breathe, but sometimes the diaphragm area is a nice place to focus on. Your belly, you'll often, if you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, your belly will get larger with the inhale, and then the air will expel and it'll go back down lower into your body. So breathing is always a nice thing to take a little time to breathe. And notice your points of contact. Notice where you're lying on your back. You may have your head on the floor or on a pillow or on a folded towel. Notice that area of contact. Notice the amount of weightedness of the back of your head into the surface below. Is it a lot of weightedness? Is it very, very light? Is it sort of medium? And go to the upper back, shoulder scapula area, comparing right and left. Notice your weightedness. Is one side more weighted than the other side? Is the more weighted side, if there is a difference, is it a heavy is one side quite heavy weighted and the other side quite light, or are the differences not that great? Maybe you have very light weightedness in that area. And come down to the backs of your hemipelvises, your two buttocks, and notice the weightedness in your two buttocks. Is one buttock, one hemipelvis more weighted than the other? Is the more weighted hemipelvis really weighted or pretty strongly weighted, and the other one quite light? Or there's differences, but one is more heavy and one is maybe medium? You're just noticing where you're carrying more of the weightedness when you lie down. And we could go through many other parts of the body. We could go through weightedness on different parts of your arms or your legs or your feet. Right now, we're just going to use back of head, back of shoulder, upper back area, back of buttocks. Oh, let's focus on the sacrum, the very bottom of the spine in the pelvis, in between the two buttocks. I like to compare the weightedness on my sacrum to the back of my head. And often when I first lie down, it's quite different. I often have a lot of weightedness in either the head or the sacrum. By the end of doing my somatic movements, it's often much more even. And let's go ahead and bend our legs, feet on the floor, and let's just start with our usual arch and flatten. In the Hanna Somatic modality, we focus on the somatic center between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the pelvic bones. So that's the low back area. It's the belly in the back, the belly area in the front, and the sides of the body at the oblique area, all the way three-dimensionally into the center and out to the periphery. So when you inhale, you're going to inhale and arch, rocking your tailbone into the floor. Your low back will lighten or slightly lift. And then as you exhale, you're bringing your pubic bone and your rib cage toward each other. The front of your body is compressing and the back of your body is lengthening. When you inhale and arch, the back of your body is contracting or compressing more, and the front of your body is lengthening or expanding more. And you'll feel that relationship as you go through your arch and flatten. You can do your arch and flatten as a slow flow. When you're inhaling, you're arching. When you're exhaling, you're coming to the front. You can do it as a pandiculation. In a pandiculation, you would inhale and you would arch the back, and then you would slowly exhale and come to a stop. And then you'd find an exhale, and then for the coming to the front of the body, and you'd bring the pubic bone and the rib cage toward each other. Your belly muscles would contract, and you would slowly come out of that. You can choose a slow flow or a pandiculation. It's up to you at this point. You want your head and neck to start participating in the movement. So allow your head and neck to be pushed and pulled however it wants to be pushed and pulled by the movement of what we call arch and flatten. And notice what you are noticing. Where is your feedback the greatest? What are you focusing on? Or what does as you do this movement, how does your focus, how does your attention bring you somewhere? Where you are attending, you have better feedback up into the brain, and then your brain is able to adjust its motor response for more clarity. So when we go slowly, we have more opportunity to feel and to become aware of our sensations, to increase our feedback, which really helps the motor response then adjust for ease, for comfort, and for clarity inside different parts of our brain. Bring your arch and flatten to a close. I like to close on flatten, so it leaves my back in length. And then rest in any position that's comfortable, legs long or legs bent. And we're going to change our points of focus. Instead of using the Hanna Somatic center focus, we are going to the crown of our head. You may even want to put one of your hands on, fingers on the top, the crown of your head, and you don't have to leave your hands there. You're just using touch at the crown of your head to feel that. You can bring your arm down. So the crown of the head, and focus in your mind's eye on the center of the pelvic floor. The center of the pelvic floor. And now you're going to use the crown point and the pelvic floor center point, and you're going to arch and flatten. And I'm going to suggest you decide where you want your legs. Maybe let's start with our legs bent. Actually, maybe start with your legs bent and your feet on the floor. And now you're going to inhale and arch and bring the crown of your head and the bottom of your pelvic floor a little bit backward behind you in an arch. And then you're going to slowly come out of that and start moving into bringing the crown of your head and the center of your pelvic floor toward each other in the front. Just carefully. It's not a big forward curl. And you're going to inhale, and when you are arching, you're using the crown of the head and the center of the pelvic floor. And when you are coming into the curl phase, you are also using the crown of the head and the center of the pelvic floor. So you're using your whole trunk, plus your head and neck, your whole spine, your rib cage, your somatic center, and your pelvis are all participating. And you might even feel aspects of movement or vibration going through your arms and your legs and your feet too. I like to use this focus of crown of head and center of pelvic floor because it broadens and is usually easier for people to do with a sore back. They can often do a gentle arch and a gentle curl with this focus, but it just gives you a different point of view. It gives you different feedback into your brain, and it gives your brain an opportunity to have a different motor response when you change your points of focus. And bring your movement to a close. And now lengthen one leg and leave one leg bent. Lengthen one leg, leave one leg bent. We're going to be working again with this same arch and flatten, and we're going to be working as well with the foot of the long leg. So this time again, crown of head, center of pelvic floor. Inhale, bring those backward in an arch and point your foot and toes. That's called plantar flexion. And then come out of that slowly. And then when you go forward, crown of head, center of pelvic floor, bring your toes and foot forward towards your kneecap or towards your head. And you're going to use those points for a very gentle curl. So go back and forth. When you're inhaling and arching, your 2 points are going backward and your foot and toes are pointing. That's called plantar flexion. You're going to work out of that slowly. You're going to find an exhale, bringing those 2 points toward each other in front as you bring your toes and foot forward towards your kneecap or towards your chest. That's called dorsiflexion. You're going to come out of that slowly and go back and forth again. Notice that these arcs in both backward and forward are very long through the torso. And we're also including our foot. Bring your, whatever set you're on, bring that to a close without rushing. Take a little mini rest. And change your leg position. So your long leg will become your bent leg and your bent leg will become your long leg. And we're going to continue the same movement with the crown of the head and the center of the pelvic floor. Inhale, arch, point your foot and toes. Exhale, come out of that slowly, either pendicularly where you actually go to a stop or as a slow flow. And on an exhale, bring those 2 points forward toward each other in a very gentle curl. Bring your foot and toes towards your rib cage. That's a dorsiflexion. So as you inhale and arch, you're going into a plantar flexion with your foot, pointing your foot and toes. You'll come out of the movement slowly, and you'll come into a gentle curl or flexion with dorsiflexion, toes and foot towards your rib cage. And continue on this side a little bit longer. Let the movements be very comfortable. You're looking for comfort and ease. Notice your feedback. Where does your attention go? Where are your sensations that you're focusing on? Where your attention goes, your feedback is greatest, and then your motor response is clearer based on that feedback. You can change your focus of attention on purpose if you want to focus more on your feet or on the center of your body or on the top of your head to your center of your pelvic floor. You can change your attention, and that changes your feedback, and that changes the clarity of the motor response. And bring the movement you're in the midst of to a close. And come to rest. Rest a few seconds in any position of comfort. And go ahead and turn onto one of your sides. Grab a pillow or whatever you need for under your head so that the spine, the spine in your neck is right in alignment with the rest of your spine down your back. You want to come basically into the chair position, and you're actually going to start with your top arm on your side, draping on your side rather than on the other palm. We're going to come to that other movement second. So your top arm is draped along your side. You're basically got bent hips and knees. You're in a comfortable position. And we're going to do a modification of the lateral flexion that we always do. And this is one I really like a lot. And you can have your arm down, the top arm down along your side, or you can have it over the crown of your head. That's up to you. If you like it over the crown of your head, by all means, go to the crown of your head. So you're going to start by bringing your armpit down, your hip up, your knees stay together, your top foot comes up, your hip hikes up. So that's the regular one we do, except your arm is in whatever position is comfortable, and slowly come down out of this to stop. And here's where I like to modify it. After the stop, now you're going to focus on the side of your body against the floor. And you're going to bring your armpit and your hip that's along the floor, you're going to shorten that side, and you're going to let your top shoulder and top hip move away from each other so the top side lengthens as the bottom side condenses, and come out of that slowly. And that's one of the variations I really like. And now you're going to continue. You're going to and you may want to change the position of your arm. You may want your arm over your head for this one. You're going to condense or contract the top side so armpit and hip come together. Your head may raise up. Let your hand raise your head if your hand is helping you. Your foot comes up, your hip comes up. Notice that your bottom side is expanding as your top side is condensing, and come out of this slowly. And then you're going to switch and let your bottom side condense, armpit and hip come toward each other. Top side lengthens however you want to lengthen between your armpit and your hip. And then you're slowly going to come out of this. And go ahead and do one more set without rushing. Top side shortens, condenses, contracts, while the bottom side lengthens, expands. And then you'll slowly come out. And you'll let your bottom side contract, condense, as your top side lengthens, expands, and slowly come to rest, positioning your top arm in a position of comfort. I like to do that one a lot. You're always working with oppositional movements. Wherever your focus is of contraction, there's an opposite lengthening, and I like to acknowledge both of those in my Soma. It feels good to me. Okay, so that's one of the variations I really like. Now bring your top arm and just place the palm of your top arm, maybe place it on your chest. Bend your elbow and place your arm somewhere on your chest. And your bottom arm is straight out in front of you on the floor, and that palm is up. And so in the upper, this is going to have an upper body component and a lower body component. In the upper body, you're going to slide your top palm on your chest, slide it down onto your bottom arm, slide it long on your bottom arm, and possibly pass your top palm even past your bottom palm. If that's comfortable, let your trunk, your head and neck come with you. And now reverse that action. Slide your top arm along your bottom arm, bend your elbow, come along your chest, open up your chest, open up your face toward the ceiling. You can leave your top palm on your chest. If you want to open it up, you can, but I usually just leave it on my chest. And now go in the opposite direction, breathe comfortably. your palm is going along your chest to your bottom arm, sliding along your bottom arm, perhaps past the palm of your bottom arm. You're bringing along your upper body, head and neck, and reverse that action. You're doing this in a slow flow, really allowing your trunk, your rib cage, your oblique muscles to open up, your head and neck more toward the ceiling as well. And do one more of this action. Top arm sliding along the bottom arm. Only this time you'll come back to neutral rather than completely opening up. You'll come back to neutral, taking your palm back to your chest. It might slide you open a little bit, that's fine. And then replace your arm along your side and come into a neutral position with your upper body. And now you're going to pay attention to the lower body, and your upper body can relax. Your lower body is going to alternate between clam and foot up. So clam is where you keep your feet together and raise your top knee away from your bottom knee, just to comfort, and let your top knee come back towards your bottom knee. And you're going to alternate and leave your knees touching, bring your top foot up to hike your hip. A lot is happening there. I'm just going to call it foot up, but it's foot up, hike hip, internal rotation of your top thigh. And go ahead and alternate back and forth. You'll go into the clam where your feet stay together and your knee comes up. Your upper body is relatively quiet. And then top foot up. And complete the one you're in the midst of, because we're going to put them together in a contralateral rotation. This, and I will guide you, this is another kind of variation of various moves that I really like a lot. So bring your top palm on your chest. Okay, the combination you're going to start with is you're going to do the clam in the lower body, feet together, knees up, and you're going to slide your top palm forward along your bottom arm to wherever it goes. It'll go less far probably because you combined it with clam. And now you're going to slowly come to your neutral, whatever your neutral is. Your neutral might be your top palm resting on some part of your arm or to your chest, but go through neutral. And now open up your chest and your head and neck, and foot up, hike hip. So your lower body and upper body are again in opposite rotations. And then start reversing that action. Your foot will come down, your knee will come up, your top palm starts sliding. You go into the clam in the lower body and slide top palm forward in the upper body. And see if you can go back and forth. See if you can equalize the direction. So if it's easier to do your upper body, try to equalize how much you're doing in the lower and upper body so they're about equal in their rotation forward and backward. And the equalizing is rather difficult. The feedback needs to be pretty accurate because most of us will have a situation in which either the lower body is easier or the upper body is easier in a particular movement. And we'll tend to overdo our easier direction and underdo our harder direction. So you're trying to equalize the amount of rotation that you have in your upper body will equal your lower body in the opposite direction. Breathing comfortably, you may need to reduce the amount of movement you do. Stay very, very comfortable. Complete the one you are in the midst of, and rest in a side neutral position for you. Just rest for a moment in your side position, acknowledging your lateral line. You have a lateral line facing the sky, and you have a lateral line on the floor. And now slowly turn over onto your other side. Some people like to rest on their back for a few seconds. There's always so many things you can do just to feel the effects of working with one side versus the other. And then make your way to your second side. So we're going to start with our top arm. You can either drape it along your side or you can bring it over your head. We're going to do the regular lateral flexion with a variation. So you're going to breathe comfortably. You're going to bring your armpit and hip, your top armpit and hip closer together. Your foot will come up. Your hip will hike up. Your head may raise up. You're condensing, contracting the top, lengthening the bottom. Slowly come out of this. And you're going to contract the bottom part of you, armpit to hip, and lengthen your top side. So your shoulder and hip will either come away from each other, or if your arm is over your head, the distance between your armpit and hip will lengthen and your arm, elbow will change their direction. So one side is condensing, one side is lengthening. Go back and forth. You can always change your arm to another position to get that feedback. So either your top side is shortening and your foot is coming up and your bottom side is lengthening, or your bottom side is contracting and your top side is lengthening. So hopefully you have the gist of the movement. And notice your feedback on the pattern you're not as used to. Notice where your attention goes. If it goes to your rib cage, for example, you're getting more feedback into the brain about what's happening in the rib cage. Your attention goes where your attention goes. You can either use your automatic attention where it goes, or you can direct your attention. You can say, I wonder what my hip is doing, or I wonder what my head is doing, or I wonder what my bottom armpit is doing. So you've got a lot of choices with feedback. And just enjoy the two sides of this movement. One side is condensing, one side is lengthening. Complete the one without rushing. Complete the one you're in the midst of, and come to rest. And rest in a position of comfort for a few seconds. And now place your top palm on your chest. And we'll just review. In the upper body, you're going to be sliding your palm down your chest towards your arm on the floor that's out in front of you. And you're going to slide your top palm perhaps past your bottom palm if that's comfortable. You don't have to go that far. You're letting your upper body and head and neck follow. And then you're going to reverse that. Your top palm is going to slide along your arm, along your chest. Your rib cage and head and neck are going to start rotating or turning toward the ceiling. And you're going to go to your comfort zone. And then again, you're going to reverse. Where does your attention go? Where your attention goes, where you have more awareness of sensation, that's where your feedback is the greatest. And that's where the motor response based on that feedback is the most clear in the brain. Complete the one you're in the midst of. I'm giving you a little less time on the second side, just so that we review the positions before we put them together. Okay, let your upper arm, when you finish the move that you're on, let your upper arm be comfortable, and we're going to just review what's happening in the lower body. It's an alternation from clam, feet together, top knee up. And then you let your top knee come down slowly and comfortably. And then you're going to go into the foot up. Foot up hikes your hip, your top thigh internally rotates on your bottom thigh. And you slowly come out of that. Maybe do that alternation one more time, or until I call the next move, just to get used to it. You're doing clam, 2 foot up, where you may be in you're on whatever phase you're on, and complete the one you're in the midst of, and you're going to begin to combine these contralaterally, meaning your upper and lower body are going to be going in the opposite direction. So if you start with your lower body in clam, knee up, then your top palm is going to slide across your chest towards your bottom palm as your knee comes up, and you're going to reach with your top arm carefully in comfort, and then you're going to begin to reverse that. Your knee comes down, your top palm slides towards your chest. You're going to slide. You can do, I like to do this as a slow flow, so it's continuous. Myself, that's me. And then as you open up the chest and head and neck, you bring your foot up, your hip hikes a little bit, you have internal rotation in your top thigh. You're going back and forth, and you're trying to equalize the amount of rotation, upper and lower body, you're getting. You always will favor where you have more range of motion. So try to understand what's easier for you and back off of that a little bit to give your other direction that isn't as easeful a little more chance to move. So if your upper body is opening up, you're in the clam in the lower body. If your upper body is coming together, you're in the foot up on the lower body. So you're always in opposite. So if you're doing the clam and your knee is coming up, you're opening up. If you're doing the clam and your knee is coming up, your chest and head and neck are coming closer to the floor and your arm is sliding. Sometimes it's easy to get lost. It's okay to get lost. You come back to a position of neutrality and you begin to start again. And when I get lost, I go, oh, I've gotten lost. There's a reason I've gotten lost, because this pattern is a little more confusing for me. And it may be on this side, it's a little bit more confusing for me, and it wasn't confusing for me on the other side. So you're learning something about yourself when you come to points of confusion. And you're also not going to do your body any harm if you come out of a contralateral movement and start doing a same side movement. That is actually another variation. So do not worry about getting lost in the movement. I'm going to give you just a little bit more time. Maybe you'll have time to do part of, one half of the next movement to whatever half you're on, and come into a position of comfort. Let this be your ending movement, and rest on your side in a position of comfort. If this second side, for example, was a little more confusing, this is a really good one to include both sides. You want to do both sides, but you want to include this in for a while in your daily practice, perhaps, because it's helping you to sort out the feedback and the motor control that goes with that feedback. And come into the prone position lying on your belly. Do the best you can in prone position. When you come into the prone position, decide which way you want to turn your head. I'm going to suggest you bend both arms and have both elbows bent and both palms on the floor, and not under your forehead, but to the sides of your shoulder. and find a way to turn your head either left or right. And check it out. Turn your head in each direction. Both arms are bent at the elbow. Both palms are on the floor on either side of your head, on the floor in a comfortable position. And if you cannot find a comfortable position, you certainly can have your head in the middle. But if you can, find which way your head wants to go. And whichever way your head wants to go, bend that knee outward. You're coming into what we call a reptile position. And it can be a fairly large knee out. So try your knee out at different levels. Really bend it a lot, hardly bend it, and then doing in between, and see what your knee likes. See what your knee likes and try to find, usually this position is considered very comfortable for a lot of people getting used to starting to go into a prone position. Do the best you can. Okay, and if you need to peek at Jacqui, that's fine. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to leave your head in that position. Your face is facing whatever it's facing. The back of your head is facing whatever it's facing. You can even use a pillow under your head if you need to. Your palms are flat on the floor on either side of your head. And you're going to press your palms down into the floor to slightly lift your head. Your elbows will probably come off the floor a little bit or may come off the floor. Push your palms down and in the opposite direction of where your head is facing. And that's going to push your face more forward. And then start to keep your palms pressed down. Push your palms in the direction of the back of your head, and that's going to bring your head more backward. Go ahead and try it out. Whichever direction you press your palms, your head is going to go in the opposite direction. So you're going to press your palms down and in one direction, and your head and upper body and other parts of your body will travel. And then press your palms down and in the other direction and feel the traveling and come down and rest, because this can be very fatiguing. But it's also great for shoulder development. And this also, one of the muscles it's working in the shoulder is the triceps. As your elbow bends and straightens, it doesn't completely straighten, but as your elbow changes its angle, you're working the triceps. And a lot of us have very underdeveloped and very weak triceps. So this is also good, but it's a full body organization, and it's actually part of childhood development. So let's do that one more time. Your face is still in the same direction. It's going to stay in that direction. You press your palms down. You lift your head a little bit. Your elbows will go wherever they go. Now press your palms down and in whatever direction, either right or left, and notice which way it's taking your head. And then you'll press your palms down and press them towards the other direction, either right or left. And one direction takes your head backward, and one direction of pressing your palms down and slanting them takes you in the opposite direction. And then rest. And very slowly change your position. Now, if you cannot turn your head in the opposite direction, you can have your head forward, but actually most people find turning the head is more comfortable than their head straight ahead. And so your palms are on the floor. You're going to bend the knee of the side that your face is facing. You're going to find a comfortable amount of bend in your knee. And once again, press your palms down and either to the right or left. Each direction is going to bring you your head and neck in a position. So whichever way you press your palms down and into the floor, right or left, your head is going to go in that opposite direction. See if you can feel that movement. And if you get tired, you rest. But the idea is not to change the position of your head, but let everything else change its position. You're strongly working your triceps on many muscles. Also, somatic center muscles are moving, and come to rest. And just rest in this reptile position. You can always adjust your knee and your arms, and turn over onto your back. I really suggest you start putting this reptile position periodically into your daily somatic workout, or whenever you do your daily whenever you do your somatics, because it's unusual, it's different, and it's actually excellent to recapture some embryological development. Rest on your back. And now bend your knees. We're going to do a version of the twist, but I'm going to vary it. Bring your arms up, your arms straight in front of you, up toward the ceiling, palms together in a steeple. Okay. One of the things I really don't like about the steeple is I really want to move my arms. So I'm going to show you a way to do it and let your arms come out of the steeple a little bit. So here's what you're going to do. Very gently, let your knees go to the left, and just a little bit let your steeple go to the right. Now let your right arm start coming toward the floor, and let your left palm start sliding down that right arm. So you're going to yes, and your elbow may bend. You can let your top elbow bend a little bit, and then bring your knees back up to center and bring your steeple back up to center. And then you're going to let your knees go to the right and your steeple a little bit to the left. You judge how far before you start sliding now your right arm down your left arm. Your left arm continues to where it's going to go in comfort. And then you come back into your center position. You slide your top arm, your right arm back into steeple, and you go ahead and continue to alternate. Your knees and steeple go in opposite direction, but when you get your steeple to where you can't hold your palms together anymore, you just let that hand slide, the hand that wants to slide down the arm that's going to go towards the floor, you let it do that. And then you bring both back to center. You're getting a lot of different kinds of feedback from doing these movements. I've introduced a number of variations of movements we've done a lot of. And complete the move you're in the midst of, knees and steeple back toward the ceiling, and then slowly bring your arms down. Let your legs be in any position of comfort. Notice your points of contact. Back of head and sacrum. Do they feel more evenly weighted? Maybe they do. Whatever's true is true. Notice the weightedness in the upper back and shoulder scapula region. Notice the weightedness of your two buttocks, the back of each hemipelvis. And very slowly make your way to standing. Very slowly make your way back to standing. Coming back to standing. Adjust yourself if you need to just wiggle around a little to get yourself back into uprightness. Check your knees, make sure you haven't hyperextended or pushed them back. A little bit of a soft bend is very good, coming into a soft straight. And just notice your uprightness. Notice the weightedness on the bottom of your feet. And just gently raise each arm. There may or may not be some change in from the earliest movements we did in standing through the floor movements. Notice your range in turning your head. Come back to center. Let's just review the pelvic floor movement. You're going to stand. I like to stand with my feet a little bit farther apart than normal, but I've tried this in various positions, close, a little bit farther. I've tried it very wide. They're all really good. I'm just going to suggest a little bit wider than usual. What you're going to do is you're going to bend your hips and knees, let your tailbone go behind you. You're leaning a little bit forward. I keep my back relatively straight. It's still got some contraction. That's fine. And then as I exhale, I narrow. I come back up to straight, and I'm poised. My trunk is poised over the heads of my femur bones. And inhale, widen, tail back, lean forward. Exhale, narrow, come back up to upright. Inhale, widen, your pelvic floor is widening. Exhale, your pelvic floor is returning. One more time. Inhale, pelvic floor widens. And then my hands are automatically widening with my pelvic floor. They don't have to, but it feels good. And then exhale, return. Now, just stand again and see if your low back feels is feeling comfortable. This pelvic floor move often adds a lot of comfort into the pelvic floor, into the low back. And all along, we've done things to also help our low back. Notice your uprightness. Take a very short little walk. You're going to maybe walk for 10 seconds. Just to integrate into walking, arm swing, just let it feel good. I'm just in a very small space myself. And make your way back to sitting in a chair. A chair is, we're going to apply the pelvic floor. I forgot to tell you at the beginning we were going to use a chair, so you may need to go grab a chair. We're going to apply the pelvic floor movement to sitting, to standing, to standing, to sitting. There's wonderful applications of this pelvic floor movement. So first of all, you want to sit comfortably. I'm a little bit forward in my chair, feet on the floor. I would suggest you don't want to be leaning back a little bit forward for this one, so you just have a little bit more freedom around you. Okay, so now there's a lot of different ways to go from sitting to standing. People have all different techniques that they do, and there's a lot of merit in many of these techniques. And here's one where you can use the pelvic floor movement we did in standing. We can apply it in sit to stand and stand to sit. So we're going to start by, in your mind's eye, you're going to think about, and you can let your knees come out a little bit. You're going to widen your knees a little bit. Your tail is back. You're going to lean a little bit forward. Actually, let me demonstrate for a moment, and then I'll guide you through it. You can do it with me if you want, but let me tell you how you're doing it. You're going to widen you're going to let your knees come out a little bit. You're going to bring your tail back. You're going to lean forward. And then as you narrow, you're just going to stand up. See if that works for you. Now, as you sit down, you're going to widen as you sit down. And you're going to widen. You come back to sitting and widen again, tail back, lean a little forward, get your weight a little more over your feet, tail back, and now narrow your pelvic floor, and it brings you up. And then as you come down, widen, and then come to upright sitting. Again, widen your knees, tail back, lean forward, more weight, a little more weight over your feet, narrow, come up. Widen as you come down. And then widen again, but with the tail back, leaning your weight a little more forward, and narrow and come up. Last one, just widen and come back down to sitting. Excellent. Okay, so I wanted to get all of that in, and it's been a long time since we've done, well, in my classes, I know Mary Poxon does it all the time in her classes, but I'd like to do a little something for head, neck, maybe even a little bit of jaw, and maybe even a little bit of scalp. So sit comfortably. Maybe you just want to take your fingers and massage the sort of cheek jaw area a little bit. Kind of, it's hard to talk and do this, but you kind of let your mouth slacken a little bit. I think I'll take off my glasses. I like to come right under my zygomatic bone. That's the cheekbones right here. And sometimes I like to just gently massage right under them. Sometimes it opens the sinuses up. It's good to sort of massage your ear flaps around your ear flaps. The ear maps the whole body in acupuncture, just like so many parts of the body. That often feels really good. Okay. Let's do double upper trapezius. So we often do upper trapezius one side at a time, and it's a terrific move, but today we're just going to do it all together. Here's one version of that. You're going to inhale, externally rotate your arms, bring your shoulders up, and bring your head a little bit back, not too squished, and then gently come out of that to relaxation. And again, externally rotate, shoulders up and back, head gently back, and slowly come out. Good. And relax. And I just like to do that. I like to go to the upper trapezius because somehow there's so many wonderful things you can do with your head and neck. That's what we're going to do right now, because it tends to bring your shoulders down a little bit. It certainly brought my shoulders down a little bit, and that feels really good to me. Okay, let's go. Good. We have just a couple minutes. Let's go back to the pelvic floor and just rock a little side to side on your sits bones. Rocking side to side on your sits bones. We rock forward and back. We're going to do that too, but a lot of people never rock side to side, and this is really good for side to side balance. And then come back to regular sitting. And now rock. It's basically an arch and curl. You can do it as an arch and curl. And now you're rocking forward and backward on your sits bones. And the last plane is the horizontal plane. And now you're going to rotate. So you've got your midline. If you bring I'm going to bring my right knee forward. If I bring my right knee forward, it turns my whole body to the left, and then I come back. So bring your right knee forward, turns your whole body left, and you're rotating towards the same side. It's not a contralateral rotation. And then your other knee comes forward. Your feet stay where they are. You're just, as you slide your knee forward, it turns your body to the opposite side, and then you come back. And go back and forth a little. Usually it feels really good. And so often in a chair, I really like to work all three planes. This is the horizontal plane, ipsilateral, meaning we're doing a same side rotation rather than a contralateral rotation. We can do a contralateral rotation. One way is come back to center, cross your arms. And now, if I bring my right knee forward and my lower body turns to the left, I bring my upper body to the right. Oop, my chair's a swivel. And I come back to center. Then I bring my left knee forward and I turn to the left. And so you can turn this into a contralateral rotation. And back to center. And again, end with some side to side, some arch and curl, and then smaller and smaller until you feel like you're sitting upright, your eyes are on the horizon, all your teleceptors are on the horizon, and your back is comfortable and you are comfortable. And that is where we are going to end our class today. I want to thank everybody for coming on this over here in California, beautiful sunny day. I'm going to turn the recording off, but you are most welcome to stay for discussion and questions and confusion. So thank you, everyone. You know, I don't think I mentioned a date at the beginning. I'm just going to mention today's date is Saturday, June 1st, 2024. Thank you, everyone. And Jacqui, thank you so much for being our model.